Welcome to Hindustan Times Digital. My name is Aditya, and in this video, we are going to look at the camera features of the Vivo Y15 smartphone. This phone comes with triple rear camera setup, which includes a primary 13-megapixel sensor. It also has a selfie camera, and we are going to look at all the specific features that you get enabled by AI technology. So let's dig deep into the camera features of the Vivo Y15 smartphone. So the Vivo Y15 comes with triple rear cameras. You've got a 13 megapixel primary sensor, 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor, and then 2 megapixel depth sensor. Apart from that, you have a front camera which is housed in this water drop notch, and this is a 16 megapixel camera that you get. So now let's look into the details of this camera interface and what all do we get. So as you can see, it's a pretty clean interface. It's quite user friendly in terms of what it does and what it offers. So you have this photo mode over here, you have this beauty mode over here, you have pano, which is basically panorama, then you have the pro mode, and then you have this dock mode as well. So now let's look into the pro mode. So pro mode is basically something that lets you manually define the light settings, the aperture, the ISO, and the white balance for a phone's camera. So you can actually tap over here and define what kind of settings you want depending on what time of the day or night you're shooting that particular image. Pano is basically used for all these landscape pictures that you want to shoot. You basically drag and move this phone very slowly and tilt it towards the angle that you want the phone to be, the camera to be shot, and it gives you a nice perspective in terms of the image and the details. Then you have the beauty mode. It basically adds a lot more enhancements of sorts to the phone's camera and gives you better image quality as a whole. You have this wide lens as well over here, which you can just tap over here by clicking on this wide, and you get the different perspective of the 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor on this phone's camera. The photo mode is something that we've already talked about. In terms of resolution, you have all these live photo options as well, which basically clicks a photo and then gives you a live perspective of the image. The HDR mode is something that you can manually switch it on and off. And in terms of the video also, then you have these different capabilities. You have this timer, slow-mo over here, time-lapse over here. So you have different video features available as well. So these are the rear camera features of the Vivo Y15. Now let's look at the front camera of this phone now. The front camera, as we just mentioned, is a 16 megapixel sensor housing on this water drop notch, and this also has a host of features. You have this beauty mode over here, which basically enhances the quality of the image, and you can just tap over here and reduce the skin tone and define it depending on what kind of complexion you want for the person's image. You also have these levels that over here define what level you're looking for, and then you have this AI mode also, which automatically tweaks depending on the kind of subject that's standing there or sitting there in front of the camera right away. The photo mode is already there, and then you have this HDR mode, which is there as well, and then you have the pro mode, which is also there, but this is primary for the rear camera, so we won't really talk about it so much. Then you have this wider perspective that you can share with the rear camera as well. And in terms of the rear camera that we've talked about, the front camera is a lot less in terms of its capabilities, but it's quite potent in terms of the features that you get. So these are quite a lot of features, and this is the full screen option that you get while clicking selfie, and then you can put a self timer and click depending on how much time you want to spend before the shutter actually works for the camera. So these are the features of the front camera of the Vivo Y15. With a triple rear AI camera setup, front camera which is housed in the water drop notch, and so many AI-centric features, you can play around with so many options and the diverse lenses that lets you experiment with different angles and perspective before you click photos and share it on social media. These are the camera features of the Vivo Y15 smartphone. For more videos, stay tuned to hindustantimes.com.